Hey guys, it's Sandra from Inspired Keyboardist, and this morning I'm gonna be recording a tutorial of Hillsong's Embers from the Young and Free album. What an awesome album. And so I'm just gonna get started with the start of the song, which is in the key of B major. So actually the way I find out that it's B major is really just playing and so I know that this is like the one, and you know I'm not perfect pitch, so what I have to do is I'm kind of just playing around doodling, and then I realize that okay, so it's in the key of B. So of course you gotta be really comfortable with the B major scale. Yep, so we're gonna get started. I will just be using my laptop to guide us along in the song, and so the song kind of starts with a pad, and to play the song, it really depends on how, what sort of other instruments you have, right? If you're playing this song entirely by yourself and there's not even a drummer, then you probably need to add more rhythms to it. If you're playing this with a drummer in a small band, you could play less rhythms, and you can even do like just a pad that starts with like, you know, it's a nice long pad sound. But today I'm going to be recording this, perhaps sharing a variety of contexts, whether by yourself or whether you have a full band, and what kind of sounds you can use for different parts of the song. So here we go. It starts with chord 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's the beat. It's chord 1, and then 1, and then 4, and then 6. So I think of it in terms of music theory, Roman numerals, chord 1, 1, 4, 6. And once again, I like referring to chords according to Roman numerals 1, 1, 4, 6, just because if like the worship leader decides to change the key to another key, let's say C. I could just very easily translate it into chords 1, 1, 4, 6 in the form of C, C, F, A minor. And so going on with the rest of the song, it actually goes on with that quite a bit. So this is the part. I apologize that when I play off my laptop you can't really hear the bass. When the singer came in, this motif actually keeps going on and on, so you can just keep going on. You might want to play a little bit softer. And I also did a little bit of chord 5, which is F sharp major. So I did like a I think I heard that, so I just decided to copy the recording. Octaves. So this section, they call it the chorus, right? You hear this electric guitar is playing. So once again, if you're in a band and there's an electric guitarist doing that, please just let the electric guitarist do it, because it's his or her job. So why steal their limelight? And there's no point for you to play together with it, because you don't really want to just add on to an additional exactly the same kind of layer. You want to let that instrument shine for that section alone. But if you're playing by yourself, then I would definitely suggest keeping as close to the recording as possible, because everyone refers to that recording when they hear the song. So I will, if I'm by myself, Or perhaps there's no electric guitarist in the band because it's a very small band, and maybe there's just a cajon player or an acoustic guitarist, and I might very well just do. Actually, I realized that was actually a 1B. In Roman numeral terms, 1B is like first inversion chord, which means it's not quite B major, but it's B over D sharp, which is such an awesome sound. So let me just demonstrate. Section, and you can hear that the drummer isn't really building up quite a lot yet, but it gets really boring just playing with the left hand, just one sustained sound. And of course I'm using a full concert grand sound on my keyboard. I'm not using any pads, and the thing about piano sounds is that it fades off, so you cannot even hear it anymore. So, but the awesome thing about a piano sound is that it's also a percussion instrument. Why? Because if you open the inside of the piano, you will see that it's a hammer hitting the strings. So it's actually a hitting action, and it's percussive. So what I do when I leverage on that fact is that you could create drive when the drummer is building up a lot. You can start using your bass note. I quite like using my bass note, so that's why it's quite important to really train up your pinky very well. So instead of just doing, what I might do is to just very quietly do. So I'm actually doing like a gradual crescendo to really complement together with the drummer. Now this is really important. You really want to listen to the drummer and copy what the drummer is doing. The drummer might be building up with a little bit more bass, a little bit more of the bass drum, a little bit more of the tom. It could even be a fancy snare drum pattern. So whatever he's doing, she's doing, you really want to just imitate that kind of a groove. So I might do that later. I'm just gonna share the little tip there. I'm just gonna play along with it right now. Quiet moment. You don't really have to play anything. Try not to add any like rhythmic lines or grooves there, because as you can tell from the recording, it's really still. So it was just like a chord and hold on to the chord. I call that a sustain chord. Just sustain it right there. Next part. And it gets really boring if you're playing the same way like the first verse. So usually I might want to do a little bit more fancy stuff. So it's in this case, I really feel that this octave motive is quite an anchor for the song. It's quite a huge personality trait of the song. I don't really feel like changing this to like, to adding some ridiculously fancy stuff. I want to keep that constant, but this time I might want to just add a little bit more interesting rhythmic patterns at the bottom to add this kind of a register. So this is what I might do. So you can see my pinky doing a lot more. So just one more little thing I was doing. Actually, it's quite stale if you do it all in the same volume. So what I might do is just start a bit softer and then crescendo, like get a little bit louder gradually. So it really feel the keys. I don't just play with a little bit of my skin. I mean, of course, sometimes you have to because it's fast. But when it comes to something that requires a little bit more like dynamic control, I try to play a little bit more with more skin contact. So I'm actually a little bit flatter with my fingers. And sometimes, as you can tell, I'm actually trying to gain even more control by using 2 fingers on one key. And that way I find that I get a little bit more control. I can control my dynamics just that bit more. Of course, we do that because we know that our strong fingers are the first 3 fingers of our hands, and the number 4 and number 5, the pinky, these are weak fingers. So when we assign fingerings to what we play, we want to try our best not to use these 2 fingers. And so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and do that section, except I have a little tip to share as I love chords, and I love like additional advanced stuff when it comes to chords, right? So like the chord is obviously like a chord 4 and then a chord 5, right? So it's made up of chord 4, 5, but I think that this sounds pretty cool too. So what I did was to just move the C sharp to a B, and this is like a what's that word called? A suspension. Longing in that harmony, which is really a very magical feeling. You actually hear it in the recording as well. It's done somewhere by a pad person, maybe an electric guitar sustained sound. It's in there somewhere and I can hear it, and I'm just trying to imitate that. And to create a little bit of a more thick chord texture, I might also add in an F sharp. So instead of just, because actually this is a 7th interval, which is a clash note. Why? Because if you move the B up to here, you do get a pretty clashy sound of a minor 2nd interval. So you want to try and avoid that, but if I add in a little bit of an F sharp, it's actually sounding pretty awesome. And now what you really want to do is realize that I'm putting in a B and an F sharp in a chord 5. If you watch my other video, you will see that I'm applying my everlasting 1 to 5 tip, which makes that contemporary sound. So moving on. I can hear a lot more snare drum action. I'm just going to go match it. And you can hear that the keyboard has this really important job of playing da, 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 and it's your job to figure out the tune by playing by ear. Really just, if it takes you a while to figure out it's these chords, these notes, then please go ahead and figure it out, because there's no better way to learn a song than to just play by ear, grasp the skill, and it's possible, just doodle around with it like, oh, nope, not that. Nope. So that's how I figure it out. So I'm not gonna actually go ahead and tell you what notes they are, like B, A sharp, F sharp. I will leave it to you to go figure out those notes. It's easy to copy. But what I do want to say is that if you're playing by yourself, and you're one of the only ones supplying the chord and the melody, then it's quite necessary to play it like that. If you're playing with a huge band and there's tons of people doing other stuff, you don't really want to waste your left hand doing that, because the bassist, the acoustic guitarist, maybe even the electric guitarist, they're all doing this for you. So you don't need to play that E. Actually, you don't even need to play your left hand if you have a band. Well, what you do want to do is use your both hands and do if I'm not wrong, it was, I can't remember. But the thing is, you get the point that you don't have to use your left hand for the bass or the accompaniment anymore. Put that out, let someone else do that, and just focus, because this is a climactic section and you really want to use both hands to just maximize on the full range of the keyboard. Start using something from the middle C and upwards. I like to call it like the mid to high registers. And of course I go by the principle of the more climactic it gets, the higher you want to go. So reserve this space for something really climactic, which usually means the second half of the song, possibly the 3/4 point, 75% point of the song. So that's when I start coming into this zone. If you notice, most of the time I was here. So moving on. Of course, it sounds pretty empty because I am by myself, so there's no one supporting the bass, and we can hardly hear the bass from the laptop. If you want to, and if you're really good with octaves, which I'm not great at, you could really just up the challenge yourself and go. Which is pretty tricky because you have a whole lot of black notes to jump around with. I highly think it's very accident prone. I would probably not do that in a real thing unless you're really, really good with octaves, and I know of people who are that good. So if I'm by myself, I'm just gonna go ahead and supply my own bass and play that riff on top. This part again, it's just like the verse. From here you can hear the drummers and the basses, everyone's gearing up for something big. You want to start doing crazy things up down here as well. So you start seeing that I'm doing some things more as well. I'm trying to keep this constant, but I'm actually adding a little bit more activity between to create more like a rhythmic feel. Bum, 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 bum. I'm trying to add in some fills there. Feel free to just see what notes I play. To just develop sensitivity to something that's played too often and then getting stale. So my ears are beginning to tell me that's getting very stale. So as this section repeats, I'm going to start deviating away from it. I'm actually going to do some other stuff. Not quite sure what I'll do. It's always impromptu, but here you go. I think the biggest tip I can tell you is just to go straight for B major scale. Really, I am just improvising and playing stuff in B major scale. There's no special thing about it. When you're really comfortable with B major scale, here's a trick, something to sound cool. You're making up little mini tunes and improvisational lines and something rhythmic on the piano registers just up here. You can afford to be a little bit more ornate because we're hearing this chord progression for the very third time in a row. So people already get the idea and it gets boring hearing it the same way. So go ahead and add stuff and improvise. Here's a tip: thirds and sixths sound awesome. So thirds in terms of like, yeah, these are thirds, intervals of a third. That's a third. So that's a third. A sixth is, so you will see that I was doing like, I was just going to tell myself, okay, you know what, I'm going to improvise something, let's use thirds, let's use sixths, let's use a variety of scales, little snippets of scales going up, going down. And this is something that's extremely personal. I'm improvising my own way. I don't even know how I'll be doing it. It comes with practice. So go ahead, and the best way to practice, I suggest, will be to just play the recording, put on earphones, I may suggest. That just gives you a lot more detail. And then just playing with a recording, because that way you get to play with the drummer, the bassist in Hillsong, right? And then you get to improvise. And if you make a mistake, well, the idea is to practice. So go ahead and do that like 5 times, 10 times if you need to, and just get ideas and grow and develop your own little ideas. So here we go. Major drop, and you really want to keep that drop, so do that drop by just really holding on to a chord and don't do anything in between. Please just sustain it and let that be contrast, because this contrast is awesome compared to that mega climax we just heard. So you hear that little riff again, right? So I might decide, okay, I don't want to do that octave again just because I'm getting stale of that octave sound, so I might change it by going to just one voice and just the middle register like this. The song ends. It kind of just ends on a B major chord right there. Let it fade. And if your church is clapping and everyone is doing like just a little bit of an extra B major extension, go ahead and do it. I kind of wish I have a bigger keyboard. I would love to go lower. And what do I do at the end of these songs? Well, really easy. Add in a second. So this is a 5, 1, 2, 5. Just do a whole lot of this. Go up and down, and you can even do like once again B major scale. People are clapping. There's a little rumble. Drummers are doing some cymbal stuff. So what did I do? I kind of did like added some 7s, 5s, and 2s. So just lots of 1s, 2s, 5s, 7s, and 7s and 2s being really passing. Like, don't do like a hardcore. You could do that. I mean, it's a little bit stretching the harmonic stability, but it actually sounds pretty nice. I quite like that. So go ahead and experiment. Just go up and down the scale when those little drum rumbles are going on. And hey, I hope this tutorial helped. Thanks for watching, and leave me a comment below if you have any questions. Subscribe if you haven't. I hope this has been helpful. I look forward to your questions and comments. Just keep them coming. Thank you, and see you.